Okay, ladies, this is a topic that I think I'm probably going to have like 4 million podcasts on because it is something that I just see keep bumping up over and over and over again. And of course, when I see the topic coming up over and over again, I'm like, I got to find an expert. So today we are on the line with Dr. Tamara Beckford. Sorry about that, Beckford. And then we are talking about how do we make time for ourselves? We are also in the busy. I think busy, and Tamara, you can talk to this as well. Like, how many times have you had a conversation with someone and you're like, hey, how's it going? And what's the first thing they say?
Girl, I'm just busy.
Right. Like busy is like a Girl Scout merit badge
Yes.
that everyone has earned. Well, let's just
hmm
say, how do we unearn that busy card? And
hmm
so I wanted to bring her on because this is what she does. She's a medical doctor, and you can go into it, but like, why did you start down this path?
I mean, I love that you started with the busy badge because
Yes.
we do walk around with it as, a badge of honor, because if I can tell you that I'm busy, I'm so super important. I just don't have time for you right now. I really like you,
Yes.
but so, as I'll, introduce myself to your audience, I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford. So I'm an ER doctor, wife, a mother of two young boys. One's three, he's gonna be four soon. Can't tell
Oh
him
my
that he's not
goodness.
four yet. And the other one just turned six. So during the pandemic, there are a lot of things that, really, if there's anything that the pandemic did, it really brought to light like what's important
Mm-hmm.
and what you can really just kind of do it at. It's not that important at this time. And during that phase, I started to look and realize that like, hey, you know, I've had this time when there's like a lot of guilt. There are a lot of things we've seen. A lot of our colleagues, I was looking around and I see a lot of my colleagues are not doing
Oh
so well.
gosh. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of, I mean, burnout was one thing, but burnout
Mm.
and thinking that you're going to die, that's like totally different.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, one of the things that I started to do is that I started working on self, but I didn't realize how much I was working on self, working on
Mm.
my mind and my time. And then during that time, I was like one of the happiest moments emotionally of my life, which is weird because you're like, well, you're an ER doc. Now, yes, it was a lot of despair around me, but emotionally, I'm like, this was one of the happiest times. So, what was it that I did? And I
Mm.
realized that I was taking care of me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started because I realized that I had to take care of myself in order for all the other duties that I had in my life to fall into place. Now, before that, I was just taking care of everyone else and just
Mm-hmm.
doing things as it came along. Something got thrown at me, just handle it, handle it, handle it. And you know what happens when
Right.
you start handling all these things? You what?
Yeah.
You busy.
Yes. It's so funny. And I want to take a step back because we all remember, it's so close in our memory. We all remember what the medical profession was going through at the height of the pandemic. You were just like, we have no idea what this is. People are
Absolutely.
coming to us and being like, help me. And you're just like, I wish.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were, I've had friends in the medical, they're like, I would come home and cry. Cause you just
Mm-hmm.
like, you did not see a happy day. Like
Yeah.
there was not a happy day for months on end. And I find it so refreshing for a lot of people, COVID was a turning point of like
Mm-hmm.
just looking in, and you're like, you know what, I have to look in because
Mm-hmm.
when you looked out, like you're like, I ain't seeing a lot that.
No. And how do you cope consistently? And then you
Yeah.
have to be there. That's the thing. Like,
Yes.
so with the position that I'm in, and even though like my position is one of an emergency physician, but also I have other hats. Like, like I said, I'm a mother. And
Right.
during the pandemic, my now, 3 going on 4-year-old bossy gentleman was only he was only a year and a half.
Right.
And he had just a few months later had been hospitalized for respiratory or breathing issues, like, overnight. So can you imagine now this virus that's taking people out
Right.
because of breathing related things, and you have your 1 year old and you're just like, whoa. So I think that this was the way that my body said, you know what, we're going to get through this, but we're not going to break, we're going to build. And what
Yeah.
is it that you build? So you work on, and like you said, from the inside out, because you're building not just resilience, but you're building it for not just now, but for the future. Right. And I know that you talk about this a lot on your podcast about like the changes that you're making. You're not just going to do wham, bam. All right, I'm about to knock this out. And like your
Right.
body's going to just say automatically, like, okay,
Mm.
I'm just going to adjust. Yeah, I like this 30 days. I'm just
I've
going to
been
stay like
waiting
this
for you to
forever.
say that.
So it required working a step at a time. And
Mm.
then by the time I got to the point that I've built this resilience, I looked back and I realized, like, wow, I did this by working from the inside out.
Right. And
You
now,
know,
did you make a conscious choice, or did like one day you just kind of started doing these steps and you're like, hang on, wait, I got something here.
that was it. That was it, because there are certain things that I started to just hang around. And this is what I talk about, like in my whole self-care, alignment of mind, body, and spirit. And
Right.
the alignment, I recognized that looking back. So it was a retrospective analysis of my last few years. And I
Mm.
realized, wow, I really started to align my mind, my body, and my spirit. And I feel like, that itself is self-care. So during the time, no, I didn't go around and said, okay, I'm going to start aligning my mind myself. I
Right.
started really by one, I blocked out a lot of the excess noise. So the things that I
Yes.
needed, I, looked at what I needed, but things that were just excess noise and being bombarded by gloom and by doom and gloom consistently, I knocked that out. So when I
Mm.
say that, I know a lot of people, this is not to take out of context and say like, well, the doctor didn't care about the patients. No, 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 no. I
No.
cared. And in order for me to keep all of that, I when I left home, I did not have myself being bombarded by consistent statistics, by consistent
Right.
conversations. But
Yeah.
all of that, I kept it in the area where it needed, which is at work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I come home, I need an area of peace and I needed to be able to recharge. And
Yeah. Right.
trust me, that had me in the long run, it helped me out tremendously, to the point that even my medical director at the time, he said, this is like maybe like a year or going into the second year. He said, boy, you're faring out better than some of your colleagues. Like, what is it that you're doing? And that's when I knew. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
people were like, wow, how is it that you're so consistently zen? One of my colleagues said, like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
truly zen, you must be practicing what you preach. And I'm like, I am. you
Yeah.
know
And I want to go back to that because it's like so many of us, you probably felt like there's a lot here. There is a
mm-hmm.
lot here. You felt heavy and you were like, you know what? I just have to do something. You knew how to do something. And I think so many women wait for the perfect, like, oh, I'm gonna read this book and it's gonna tell me what to do, or I'm gonna scroll through whatever and I'm just gonna find this magic box of what to do.
mm-hmm.
And you just were like, you know what? I just have to say, you know what? I closed the door to my car and works there, and
Yes.
I'm heading home. And I,
mm-hmm.
as simple as that is,
Mm-hmm.
that could be the first step for a lot of people listening right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you really sit and take inventory of your life, and especially your daily life, right? As you're
Mm.
moving and you're going along, what are some of the excess baggage that you are bringing home that
Oh
you really
yeah.
don't need to bring home, right? When you step through that door, what is it that you want your home to feel? Like, what is this? Is this your sanctuary? Is this your place of
Yeah.
zen, or is it a place for you to bring home whatever it is from your day and dump it there. Now,
Right.
when I say this is not to ignore your emotions and
Right,
to
right.
ignore what goes on. And, yes, we all need somewhere in order for us to talk and to discuss.
Mm,
But how much, what percentage of this and what percentage of the time are you using on this? Like,
yeah. I
we
love
really
that.
have to look at that.
Yeah. Well, because it's funny because this to me is kind of like you're starting to establish boundaries, right? Where, and I find that like just through life,
Mm-hmm.
work and life just kind of bleed into each other.
Yes.
And you're saying, you know what, my shift ended at 3. I might let it percolate while I'm in the car, but maybe once I pull in the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
work stays here.
Yeah,
Or
that
you
threshold,
or
that
you
door.
might just, if something interesting happened in your day, you might discuss it with your kids, your spouse, whatever, but that's it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, you come home and you're going to turn to a bitch session. Well, this person at work did this and that patient, blah 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 blah, and next thing you know, you're going to bed.
Yes. And where have you, had your zen? So now
Right.
when you go home, what's the difference between the environment at home and the environment outside of home?
Right. Maybe you don't wear a bra. Maybe that's the only difference.
That's the only thing. When you're just walking around, things flopping around, but you're still you're still but you are still having the same emotions. You're still having that same
Right.
tension. The tension that you had outside is the same tension that you've brought inside. And then where is your level of zen? Where is
Yeah.
your level of clarity? Where can you get clarity? Where can you get that
Mm.
time for yourself in your mind? Where is it that your mind can look and say, oh, I can't wait until we get to this place because I know
Yeah.
that I can be free and I can relax. And where is it if you are bringing everything consistently, like
Right.
we said, once in a while, of course we all need to let it
Right.
out, but consistently,
Is it every day that you have to come home and complain about something?
yeah, then you haven't brought, where's the peace in your home?
Yeah, no, I like that. And the other thing is, for those of you who probably, might be working from home still or in some type of hybrid,
Yes.
I've worked from home for like 15 years. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I was adamant about, and one of the things I first read when people were, starting to work from home, have a place to work. And so my office is
Yes.
my office. I have work hours. Like people are like, I'm like, you work for yourself. I'm like, but yeah, like 6:30, like lights
Cut.
out. Like lights out 6:30. From time to time I will work late, but it's not a consistent thing. It's something that I like, I decide to do something during the day.
Yes.
And I'm gonna make it up at night, but it's like it's 6:30, lights out. And
Mm-hmm.
I leave my office.
Office. Absolutely. And that's the thing, that it sounds like you mentioned, creating boundary. For those who it was new to work from home. Like, I've asked and I've, spoken to some of those ladies. And that was one of the most challenging thing,
Mm,
is that everything was just there. They didn't have
right,
the ability. Like me, I had the ability. I'm going to a building,
right,
rest assured the building is chaotic. There's things going on. It's,
right. But it wasn't your house.
emotionally, yeah, taxing. But when I left, the building was there. I came
Right.
here. But those who had to work from home, and this was the first time having to do that because they're used to the traditional way, like I was
Yeah.
doing it, they found such a challenge. And then there are other things that they had to do in order to have clarity and to really bring that zen, which is one was to learn, as you mentioned, that boundary. Like my office, this is my office area, and I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to
Right.
walk and get away from the area, clear my mind in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to come back as my best self. Because when we're talking all of this, the point of me and my self-care is not so that I can say like, oh, I've set boundaries. No, it's for me to show up better.
Right.
Better when I'm showing up better is because I've worked on me and I've built myself up. So now I'm no longer having like, this guilt because I
Mm.
couldn't, because I, took this time off, and then now I'm going to pick my kids up at 5:30 versus 5 o'clock. Guess what? I needed that half an hour. I needed that half
Right.
an hour to do my routine and to build myself up so that I can show up as my best self. I'm not showing up as the mom that's always angry and
Right.
annoyed. So I'm showing up as my best self because I've taken that time to myself. So this is my gift to me
Right.
and my gift to you because you're getting the best of me afterwards.
Well, it's funny you just said that. So, I think, I'm getting inside your head, lady. So hang on.
Hey,
I
ready?
hear the first person say, well, girl, I ain't got time. And you
Mm,
said something that I know
mm,
I had to do, and I've challenged my clients to do, and I'm going to challenge everyone listening to do: take an inventory of your damn time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because
Scrolling, let's talk about it.
how many, like, no, or just, or like, literally, like, Tamara and I got on the call, and I said, it's been one of those days. I couldn't believe it's already 4 o'clock. And for me, if
Mm-hmm,
I don't set alarms, I would have missed this call, because it was
mm-hmm,
just like one of those days. I was just head down, just getting stuff done.
mm-hmm.
And if you were to ask me right now what I was doing, I could probably tell you two things. But I've been at my desk since about 10 o'clock this morning, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I had lunch, I went to the gym, and I was writing a letter, but I can't tell you anything else I was doing. And so,
Mm-hmm.
my coach challenged me to every 30 minutes write down what I was doing.
Taking an inventory. I like that.
Taking a true inventory. And I asked, like, for all of my clients who tell me, oh, girl, I was so busy, I couldn't do whatever it was I was supposed to do that week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, why don't you this week, every 30 minutes, it doesn't have to be fancy, on your notes app or on a scrap piece of paper, what were you doing from 9 to 10, 9:30? I did this. From 10 to did this. And
Yes.
so like when someone tells me they're busy, we can find the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
You
like
know, it's so I love that idea. One of the things that I've been trying to implement more is I work overnights. So I
mm,
finished working this morning and I have this wonderful podcast and I'm great that we're doing this wonderful interview. I have it set and I'm just like you, had an alarm set. But then as of late, I've been working on the mind over mattress theory, right? Mind over mattress. So, and I don't know, of all the ways to try to motivate myself, I'm telling you, that one has been doing it for me. Just really mind over mattress. This extra, like, oh, I can do another 30 minutes snoozing. I've worked on not snoozing. I've worked on, now it's been over a year, and I was a snooze queen. If anybody wanted to get that extra, hello,
my
get
husband
that
and I
extra 5 minutes.
when my husband and I were dating, that was one of our like biggest fights we've ever had, was
Your
over
husband just get
snoozing.
up and go.
He was a get up and go,
That's my husband.
and I set my clock. I had a clock on the wall that was 15 minutes early. I had my alarm clock by my bed, and
Yes.
he's like, "This is hell. Like, this is absolute hell sleeping here."
I remember with my husband, because he's just an early bird and I am a night owl. And he would just get up at 5 minutes before the alarm. He's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "If you don't stop, because I have 5 more minutes."
In about 10 minutes, I'm gonna give a shit about you, but right now I don't.
It was just, we're just so different. And so, but like we said, for those who are leaders, those who really progress and do well and are able to help others the way we really want to help them, there are certain little characteristics that we just have to incorporate. And one
Right.
of them is eliminating that snooze button. It took me a year of consistently doing it because, like we said, and it was really just a little bit at a time.
Yeah,
How you
yeah.
talk about that 1%. First thing was just like I didn't have my phone right next to me or anything that I could just hit and say, oh, let me just get an
Right.
extra thing. And even before that, what I did was understand how the body works, right? So
Mm-hmm.
understand how the sleep cycle works. So understand that me thinking that I'm going to get an extra 5 minutes, it's going to just have me recharge.
Right. No.
False. Because the body, it works in its 90-minute cycle. So it just
Right.
finished its 90 minutes. You woke up and then now you are like, oh, I don't feel like getting up. I want to get an extra 5 minutes. The body's like, oh, okay, let's get back into that 90 minutes. you go take that sleep, and then 5 minutes into the 90 minutes, you're waking the body up. The body's like, no,
Right.
no, no, no. We supposed
No,
to be
I
doing
I was
90
just in my
minutes.
downward spiral.
Yes, to this 90 minutes. So that's why you're groggy. That's why, you're upset, and you're upset at the alarm clock. How dare
Right.
it? Because that 90, that 5 minutes felt like 30 seconds.
It always does.
So understanding all that, I was able to bring myself to now learning how not to hit the snooze button, and then now moving from that to the mind over mattress. And all of these are just, we're talking about is because these are part of my routine that I've
Right.
used for my self-care. Because yeah, those extra minutes, man, I hate to say it, but it does help.
Yeah,
If
it
you were
does.
talking to me from 5 years ago, I would be so resistant. But the me today, what is just like, this is so powerful.
Right. So explain the mind over mattress for the folks here.
Oh, absolutely. So mind over mattress. Now, if we really think about it, what is it that we love to do? It's just sleep. Where we
Mm,
sleeping on our mattress. So this extra time we're snoozing, we're lying down, we're having our head and just snuggling, especially for those who live in areas where it gets extra cold. And when that
yes.
wind is howling on the
Mm-hmm.
outside in the winter, you're under your blankets in your nice little warm area. Now, to say to get up and go, that's just so challenging. But
Yes.
we know that there are things that we need to get done. There are things that we want to get done in order to fulfill the goals that we have set, either for that day, for that week, for that month. And they said on average, it's noted that the average human beings sleep an extra 30 minutes more than they should. So if
Huh.
we really, yeah, so I was like, oh Lord. So so if we really conquer, and if you look at, that's why you have, like, the all these books on leadership and how to achieve your goals, and one of the top things that you notice in those books is really getting up when your alarm
Mm,
goes off, or even before your alarm. And I'm not gonna say the one about like getting up at 5 a.m. because I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. Right? At 5 a.m. I'm still at work. So
right.
I call it my wake up routine. And in my wake up routine, one of the things that I've incorporated is the mind over mattress. My alarm goes off, I get up and go.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I am no longer hitting the snooze button, no longer, because that extra time, or this time, and when we it all circles back to what we started talking about. I don't have the time. Guess
Right.
what that extra 30 minutes will provide?
The time.
That you needed for yourself. So now,
Right.
especially as busy women, we're there. As soon as you wake up, what's happening? You're being bombarded. You're pulled in all these different directions
Right.
for tasks for others. And
Yeah.
the challenge is trying to get some time to yourself.
Yeah.
So that extra 30 minutes is my time to myself. I, get out of bed and I do my routine that helps to power me for the day. Because I always say I want to enter into my day. I don't want my day entering into me. You know?
Right. I love that because when I first started working out consistently, the trainer at the time, I was working out at night and it wasn't happening consistently. You know how it is. The day,
Mm-hmm.
the day just the day is the day.
It
And
flows.
right, if the flows, and then all it takes is like one bad thing at work and you're just like, screw it, I'm not going. I'm going home,
Mm-hmm.
too tired, blah, blah, blah. And I remember he's like, well, what do you do in the morning? And I was like, sleep. And he's like, well, what are you staying up late doing? At this point, I was going to bed at like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And he's like, he's like, what are you doing? Curing cancer? Like, coming up
You're
with
like,
world
I'm
peace?
busy.
Right. And then I like eventually I set a bedtime. I was like, okay. And I started going to the gym at 7. I was like, okay, I'll go to the gym at 7. And now it's crept up. And so now, 5:30 the alarm goes off, and by 6:30 I'm working out. And like you said, it's like I do it because I'm like, you know what, I did an hour of Kim before anything. Like, if you're calling me at
Yes.
6:30 in the morning, you better need an organ or you're in jail. Like,
I love it.
but it's my time, and it's like I can take my time, I can ease into my day without having to like this pressure of it's the evening, I'm hungry, the gym's busy, blah 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 blah.
Yes, yes, it's full. I can't bother. This person's on this machine. I don't
Right.
have time. You know, we come up with a lot.
All the excuses, if there's an excuse, I've invented it, I've used it.
Welcome to
And
my world.
yeah,
I know about that.
but I like that. And I don't know, are you familiar with Mel Robbins?
Oh, I love Mel Robbins.
Right.
The high
So
five, Mel.
yeah,
Yeah,
high five
that's who I
Mel.
actually, and that's where I got the getting
The
rid of the
mind,
snooze button
yeah.
from her. And and when she said like the first thing is putting the phone across the room
Right. She put her phone in her bathroom.
in her bathroom. Yeah, mine is across the room. And if at the time I wasn't the one to try to trust me. If I got up,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was not gonna walk away or over across the room to turn off that alarm. I would probably try to, learn to sleep through
You're
it.
like,
So,
is there a remote?
exactly. It was like, and that was my mind. And yeah, Mel, and that goes along with, another thing is this: there are others out there who have done it. We can
Yeah.
help and use some of the skills and some of the techniques that they've used and incorporate it in your life. Me listening to that Mel Robbins podcast and her interviews and her talking about the really stopping and getting rid of the snooze button and the 5 4 3 2 1 up, getting up in the morning, that helped me. Now this
Yeah.
mind over mattress, I got that one from Terry Seville Foy. Mind over mattress. So, interestingly, she was talking about like her when her dad wanted to go into ministry, wanted to read the Bible. He hadn't done so. And
Right.
he got up and he was in bed. Next thing you knew, he fell asleep. And he's just like, well, this can't work, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. And that's how the mind over mattress, like, okay, get up and get out to
Yeah.
get things done. So you incorporate things that you've learned from others, you put it and you place it strategically within your life to help
Yeah.
and advance yourself.
Yeah. There's a saying, Bruce Lee. He is
Mm-hmm.
like, take what you need, leave the rest. And I think
Yes.
nowadays there's so much information, so
Yes.
many, people are like, your morning routine and like 400 steps to your morning routine,
I
your
tell you.
evening, your evening routine, your 400 steps. And I'm like, sure, read that, great, fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's like two things, like there's certain things I'm just not gonna do.
I love it. It's just not gonna happen.
I'm not gonna do it. But there are certain things that I'm like, you know what? Like for
I
me, I'm
like
like,
that.
I started, during COVID, I used to always read for development, my business, never read for pleasure. And during
Mm-hmm.
COVID, I was like, I had shit else to do. And I started reading for pleasure. And I was like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? Try to stop me from reading for pleasure. And now I pretty much read a pleasure book every 2 weeks. I'm just kind of
Yes.
plowing through books. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, other people are like, oh, at night you must, put on eye cream and do this and do this and do that. I'm like, no, I wash my face and I read my book for at least 20 minutes. Like that's my
Yes.
like my closure of the day. So it's like my
Yes.
sun up is the workout and my sunset is the book. And so it's like I bookend
Powerful.
pleasure on either end. Now, for many people, like they're like that might not be there for you. Maybe you in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the afternoon you watch a Hallmark movie. Great,
And that's the
whatever's
beauty of it. It's
yeah,
individualized
right,
because it's to help you. And that's why it's called self-care. You know, it's self-care because it's an individualized process that you incorporate in your life to build yourself and most importantly to make you feel like the you should be. A lot of us get lost throughout the day. We got look
yes,
at when we talked about this, even when we introduce ourselves. When we introduce ourselves, we have title, 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 title. Now, amongst all that title, where was that person before all these titles came about? Because we get lost throughout the years. And when you
right.
do something like that, you're like, man, when was the last time I read a
Mm,
book for pleasure? I used to love reading books
yeah,
for pleasure. And then you went back to it. And now, so you've gotten back to the essence of who you are.
right. And that was like we had nothing else to do. So I had a couple of books that like literally were sitting on my nightstand, and I started reading them. And I was like, I'm like, I really miss reading.
Yes.
And it was just a way, especially, given the state of the world, it was just a way to just escape.
And it goes right back to what we talked at the beginning. You stop bringing all that in, and you created your own world.
Yeah.
Your world, your sanctuary, your zen space, which is the biggest one, is what in your mind you created that area of peace. Like you said, you had your sun up and your sun down. Love it.
Yeah. And so, the thing that I'm taking from you, and I'm hoping that, everyone listening here is taking, is that there's no ideal scenario here.
Absolutely.
I've shared this example with my audience before. It's that one of my good friends, she hides from her kids. She locks herself in a pantry for 15 minutes, and she sets an egg timer, and she says, "Don't talk to me for 15 minutes."
Ooh, I like that.
And she just like sits in her pantry, and that's just her like
zen space, her
time. Like she's just like, sometimes I meditate, sometimes I'm just like, no one's calling my name. Like,
yeah.
And that's what self-care looks like for her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that she has found a way to make it for her. And then the kids now, they understand, like, oh, mommy is there. And you know how the kids are just there looking at that clock timer, like, just waiting for it to...
I'm sure they're like,
okay. And then as soon as it goes off, I'm pretty sure it's mom.
I'm sure they're like,
yes. But at that time, she has created this time for her. And you notice that her space and her time that she needs, even like you said, to meditate, to just not get your name called, just to have some time to yourself to think like, wow, I love. And the thing about that I love about what she's doing is that it doesn't negate the fact that she loves her family. She just needs to create time for herself so that she can be there for her family, right? So how much better is she showing up after she's given herself 15 minutes out of a 24-hour period? 15 minutes just for herself. Now, some people might look at that and, get into negative veil. Well, I can't believe she's ignoring her kids. And no, I am ecstatic that she's given herself time so that she is there for her kids. Like, we have all been there when we can't even think, because every 2 breaths you hear, mom, and you're like, I want to finish this sentence, can't finish the sentence.
Can I brush my teeth? Can I take a shower? Like, without you being like, mom.
Yes. And so at one point, she has created within her family them understanding that mommy needs a little time. So I bet you that some of the younger kids are probably like, okay, mommy's in her little time space.
Yes.
And will create and give her that space. And they have learned to respect that. And so when mom comes out, mom's, now a new attitude, a new way of looking at things. And it's all because she created some time for herself. I love it.
Yeah. And, and I also hear, some of my newer moms, working out, the mom guilt of like, I work all day, and, then I'm trying to go to, take a spin class at night, and, putting them from daycare to daycare at the gym. And, they have that like guilt. And I was like, an hour, 2 or 3 days a week, like, how is that horrible?
Yes. And you know what? The kids are probably excited that they get to go to this fancy place. And meet other kids. But we within ourselves, our mind opens up, and our egos, it just says that we should be. If you think about it, your statement probably starts out by saying, I can't believe you, fill in the blank. You should be, fill in the blank. And it's like, no, that's not that. And we have to really work. And that's one of the reasons why I love that you say that this mom took the time out, because she worked on her mind. And it all starts there. Our minds can either help to build us, or it can help to break us. Now, as people, we're human beings. human beings, we're flawed by nature,
Mm,
and we learn, from whatever mistakes that we made, we course correct, and then we move on. We
right.
can't wallow in the mistakes. Now, when we are putting together a life that we would love, and we want to, to be a life of productivity, or even a life of health and fitness, right? Like, fit girl.
Right.
So if you really think about it, this mom that has taken the 3 hours a week, to
Exactly.
herself, so that she's not taking the 3 hours a week to ignore her kids. She's doing that so she can be there for them in the long run. She's
Right.
incorporating that for her health.
Right. And so I think, so many of us, we're very quick to go to the negative. We're very quick to be like, oh, this is horrible. This is bad. Where we don't flip it and say, you know what? I'm role modeling to my kids' health. Because it's like,
Absolutely.
you know,
And the importance of it.
right. You work in the medical field,
Mm-hmm.
no one's getting skinnier.
Not even me, girl. The pandemic did me in too.
Right.
So we're all working.
Right. No one's getting skinnier. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we start to, and if you look at like, like our parents' generation started, kind of sort of working out. And
Yes.
it's like our generation, it's just what we do. So it's like we have to keep demonstrating down that working out isn't this luxury thing that only,
Right.
ladies who lunch do. Right. It's
Right. Lunch in the daytime. Yeah.
right. And
It's a part. Absolutely. It's a part. One of the things that I loved was when my now 3-year-old boss started to use the word. It says, "Mom, are you exercising?" And I'm like, I love that he has that vocabulary
right, because
word
he's
as a.
able to see
Mm-hmm,
that's what mom does, and then
mm-hmm.
eventually he'll might be like, I'm gonna join you.
Oh yeah, which he does.
Right. And it
and
might
and but it's good because it's a
right,
part, like we said, we've broken that, cycle where exercise is considered that luxury. It's just
right,
now a part of you.
of what you do. And
Mm-hmm,
as a coach, I mean, I've coached girls who didn't have any babies, so now they have like 3 or 4 kids, and
mm-hmm,
it's really nice to see that they're incorporating their kids into the workout, so that they, like, the kids know, like, this is what you do. And
mm-hmm.
they're bringing weights to the mom, and they're doing their
Yes.
crazy push-ups.
But yes. Yes, I love it. I love it. And it's so important too. And as we go through all these phases, and I saw you had like a lovely episode. So, but you're not 30 no more.
Yeah, no, and it's
And
hard.
we love our bodies through this process.
Yeah, it
We're trying to be healthy and stuff, but I love that we're, loving our bodies, and we're thanking our bodies for all that's doing for us, all that
right.
is getting us through.
Yeah. No, you've said a couple of things that I, I think, as you're listening,
Mhm.
me, I take notes all the time. So you, kind of like, I broke it down into the one, two, three, four, the 5 B's, that we need to give up our busy badges.
Mhm.
And we need to figure out if what we're doing is breaking us or building us.
Mhm.
And then we have to start to build resilience around our boundaries, being okay that if my shift is over at 3, and unless someone's bleeding on the table, I'm leaving at 3.
Mhm.
And being okay with that. And then also just blocking out the excess noise, right?
Yes.
Sometimes, we all have those people in our lives that bring the drama.
Yes. Mhm.
And just saying, you know what, I don't have time for that anymore. Or
Absolutely.
or saying, you know what, I got 15 minutes for you to just spew, and then we're going to put it in a pot, and we're going to walk away.
And we're gonna walk away. Absolutely. Absolutely. You,
But
you know uh, those 5 B's are additional building blocks,
yeah,
in order to really um find the essence of you, to get
Yes.
to that space where you can be at your best for
Right.
yourself and for those around you. So I love it. I didn't realize I was that wise, but
You
you've
are
made me.
that wise. You are that wise. That's why you're on this podcast, right? I need wise people. I said
Exactly, the wise counsel that's really helping us because we
right.
all bring something to the table. In jest, I know we laugh a lot, and this is a great conversation. And this is Dr. Beckford here, like this person who's
Right.
laughing, chilling, and so on. This is the essence of who I am, and
Right.
so
And
this is
everyone
just me.
right. And everyone knows, like for me, I'm like, you have to have humor in your life. Like if you do
Mm-hmm.
not laugh at yourself, then why live? Like I laugh at myself every damn day
Oh
because
yeah.
trust me, I do some stuff that I'm like, oh well, I just did that again.
Ooh, here I go.
Yes. And then, people who are, around me all the time, they're like, oh, that's just Kim. Like
Yes.
she's gonna do something. But yeah, you have to laugh at yourself. But I also like that, you've said, and I say it regularly, give yourself grace. Like you didn't
Yes.
arrive at the mind over mattress. You were
Mm-mm.
like, how do I just jumpstart my day? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not like four snoozes before I lay in bed. I'm like, I could probably do some things right now, or I could just lay here.
Right. Yes. Yes. No, it is. This is really, like you said, this is not something that just came naturally. And this is something that is 2 years in the making,
Yeah.
2 years. So, and as with every habit that you build, like, a habit, it takes that 1% change and it
Mm.
accumulates, it's
Yes.
accruing its interest, that 1%, and then it turns into a part of just who you are. But if 5 years ago you told me, like, oh, you just need to just get up,
You would
don't
have
you
laughed
think
in
I
my
know
face.
this?
Right.
Yeah, don't you think I just, and then at that point, what would I have told you? I just can't do it. But then I've
Right.
learned how to not say I can't and more to say, well, how can I? Well, what are some ways for me to incorporate it? And that's when I started with these small techniques. Like, I listen to those who are doing it. And which one, like you mentioned, just like Bruce Lee said, you take what you can, incorporate it, and then you dump the rest. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do your 5 million, wake up routine.
Right.
No, at least I can't do it, or I can't do it right now. But what I
Right.
can do right now is incorporate that one particular thing because that spoke to me.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
so I took that from them. And then I'm listening to someone else and I said,
Right.
okay, wow, I can incorporate that because that spoke to me. So
Right.
those, when I'm talking about I know Mel Robbins has the 5 4 3 2 1 jump
Right.
up. Like, I am not saying 5 4 3 2 1, but what I did incorporate from Mel Robbins' technique is putting my phone across the room because that
Yeah.
spoke to me.
No, and it's funny. Everything you said there. It's like, sure, you can take that laundry list of things, and what feels like you drawn to? Like what feels
Yes.
challenging but doable for you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I am I am never going to climb Everest. That just is never going to pique my interest. But if
No,
you're
me
like,
neither.
do you want to go for a hike? I could go for a hike.
That sounds good.
Right. But Everest, I'm good. I'm full. So
I
it's like
love
you
it.
kind of have to like pick and choose, but also acknowledge that, like, like you said, 5 years ago, if someone said, put your phone across the room, you're like, you know what? I'm not ready for that. That's a little bit too much for me right now. And acknowledge that versus what I normally hear is like, I don't have time. I can't do that, and
Mm-mm.
or, I got insert whatever the
I
excuses
Yeah,
at the time.
because of the all these laundry list of
Yeah, yeah,
tasks
yeah, yeah.
that won't work for me.
Right. Or, I just can't get myself to bed. And, it's like, can you not get yourself to bed or do you choose not to get yourself to bed? And if you can
Mm-hmm.
choose that and own it, great.
Yes,
Own your shit. If you say, you know what, I'm a night owl and I like to stay up, great. But you can't complain about why you're not getting up in the morning.
exactly. You really do have to own it. If you have a character that a characteristic, I don't want to say flaw because it's just a characteristic that you would
Right.
like to change. It's not a flaw, it's just an essence of you, but you'd
Right.
like to change it to something else and you're not ready, then you're
Yeah.
not ready,
And it's
right?
okay. It just
But just
acknowledge
acknowledge.
it. Know that like it's kind of like someday I want to own, a house or go on a luxury vacation someplace and put it on your wish list. And so that it's just out there so that in my mind, I might start stirring ways that it can become possible for me.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't have to, if I'm a night owl and I want to try my best to get my ass to bed before a crazy hour time. If I'm like in my head, I'm like night owl, I'm like I stay up till 11. I'm like living on the edge.
Look at you. I'm a
I,
true night owl, and that's
I
why I work nights.
I know, and I laugh because I used to work at a hotel, and like
Mm.
once a quarter, I used to have to do the overnight shift, and I was like, I was good until about 3, and around 3, I was like,
Listen, you're just gonna have to figure this out yourself, guest.
I I was like, and like the night shift, just like you, they're like, she's like, I love it. She's like, by she's like, she would get in at 11. She's like, by like 1 o'clock, everyone's in bed. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, no one's bothering me. She's like, I can go heads down. If it's a quiet night, I can read a book. She's just like, I love it. And I was like, and we were busy from 11 to 3 doing the
Mm.
overnight stuff. And at 3 o'clock came and I was like, all right, well, we're done. And I got to be here till 7. And I was just like,
Longest 4 hours ever.
I was like, oh my, and she's like, well, she goes, the papers come around 4:30. I was like, I'll do it. Like literally, I was like,
You
I
need
need,
something.
because I was gonna crawl in a corner and just go to bed.
Oh my gosh. No, we all have certain characteristics, and for me, yes, I am a night owl. And 2 a.m., all my ideas are flowing. You
Yeah.
don't want
Right. And I laugh because it's like, for a night owl, for me to say, like, you know what? I typically get up every day between like 6 and 7, like naturally.
hmm.
And I don't like, I just lay in bed. I'm like, am I tired? I'm like, no, I'm going to get up now. And
Yes, yes. It's and that's the discipline that's challenging because as a night owl, I use that excuse for the days that I need to get up. And for many, many years, like I work nights. I can't get up in the morning. I
right,
can't get up. But you know what? There are certain things that I've noticed within my life and I've acknowledged it, right? Okay, I can't get up in the morning because I'm a night owl and I'm just, really tired. So this is barring that I've now, I am a night owl, but I went to bed at a regular time
right,
and need to wake up in the morning to start my day as a day walker as
right,
opposed to the night worker that I am on a natural basis. But it's just like there are many times that I used to sleep that time away, and I'll just be
right.
very honest, many, many, many years.
Yeah,
But then why? Because I tell myself I can't get up, I work nights and I'm just super tired, da da da. But then there are certain times when even during those same periods of times when I would get up early to do other things, such as
right.
I always like getting the first flight out. So I'm at the
Yeah,
airport at 4 a.m. So I could get up to get
right.
to the airport for the 6 a.m. flight, but I can't get up to do the other things because I'm just too tired. So when I really start to look at myself and I recognize, like, wow, I'm making excuses and I'm picking and choosing. So that's what it is.
Right.
As you mentioned in your podcast, it's not that you can't do it, it's just that you choose not to do it.
Exactly. And and we have to own our shit. It's like
Yes,
I choose not to climb Everest. But
exactly. It's not that we can't, we just choose not
I
to.
choose not to. And maybe you say to yourself, you know what, I choose, maybe you are working towards this mind over mattress thing. Maybe you are working towards the 5-second rule and you're like you said, you kind of like chipped away at it. So it might be, if you however long you stay up, like so maybe I stay up to 2, 3 in the morning every
Mm-hmm.
day. It's like, all right, I'm gonna set a bedtime so that it's 2 a.m. I'm in bed. And then
Mm-hmm.
it becomes 1:45, then it becomes 2 o'clock. So that eventually you start
Incremental.
chipping your way back. And so then on the other side, you're like, I'm going to get up 15 minutes early and do whatever that and you would do in those 15 minutes so that eventually you kind of get to your like equilibrium point. But it's like, you know, where you were like, you just kind of like acknowledge, like, you know what, look at me. Like, I didn't really like try to muscle my way to this mind of a mattress. It was just this like little drip every single
Yes.
day.
Mm-hmm. It was absolutely that, a drip every single day. And then, if there were days that my mind, because as you mentioned too, in your podcast, is that our minds don't want to change.
No.
It is the perpetual 2-year-old having its temper tantrum. So
Yes.
when you're trying to incorporate change, if you understand how the mind works, you'll understand why it feels so challenging at the beginning. But eventually, just like the 2-year-old will wrestle with you, and then eventually will fall asleep and just acquiesce, such similarity occurs with our minds. So when we're trying to incorporate those changes, your mind is just say, man, maybe you should just get up and hit that snooze button. 5 more minutes won't be that bad.
Right,
Why are you
exactly.
stressing? We've been able to get through this all in the past. Well, we've done it before and done the extra 5 minutes of snooze, but you felt better, right?
Right.
And it's like, no, you didn't.
Right. You that's your justification, like going off.
Absolutely. Your mind, that conscious, subconscious is just, talking. But then when you overpower it and you get up and you consistently get up and says, you know what, even though I'm tired and I'm dragging myself to the bathroom, I didn't hit that snooze button. I'm continuing to just try this. 2-3 weeks passes by. You're like, oh, wow, I actually got this done. 4 weeks. Wow, this is 5 weeks. By the time you hit a couple months, you even forgot that you had to challenge yourself to get up out of bed because now it's just a part of your routine.
Right. And but also, as we're talking here, that know that it's not going to be this smooth process, right?
Oh, no.
You are going to have some setbacks and own it, right? It's like I always I'm such a big fan of CSI. And it's like you CSI, you're like, what happened? So that what the obstacle is. And maybe you
Exactly.
already know some of your obstacles. Maybe you like know that, hey, maybe like one night you're gonna go for breakfast after work. You're like, you know what? I'm not even gonna try to get up early.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have you're going out that night. You're like, I'm not even gonna try to get up early the next day because that's stupid.
Exactly. And the goal too is not always to get up early. The goal is to get up with your alarm.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you set is because that's what you're training yourself. You're training yourself to get up with your alarm. So whatever time that you set that alarm, because and I love that you mentioned that maybe you're hanging out with your friends that night, the next day, you're not going to just like, oh, I'm just going to sleep my day away, because you have set tasks to do. Like at 10 a.m., you need to be at a particular place. So you know that I'm going to sleep all the way up until 8, but you set your alarm till 8. So no, 8 o'clock comes, 8:05, 8:10, 8:15.
Right.
You're training yourself. If it's something that you took a nap in the middle of the day, which I'm a fan of, because like I said, I'm a fan of naps. You've taken that nap, that 30-minute nap, you've set your alarm, you get up.
Right.
The goal is for you to train yourself to get up with the alarm that you've set, because you set the alarm for a reason. You knew that that particular time is the time you needed to get up to do whatever it is that you have chosen to do to accomplish the goals that you've set for that period of time. And so that's your promise to yourself so that you can get those goals accomplished.
Right. Yeah. No, and I love that. And this has just been like such a fabulous conversation. And I hope that as many takeaways as I've taken away, you've done the same thing. And so the one thing I ask every single person as I close out my podcast is, what makes you feel magical?
What makes me feel magical? It's a great question. I think my magic comes in, and I've written this down recently. It's come from within and being able to give without, like throughout, I should say. So my magic is inside. And one of my Zen that I've recognized is that I have this really nice ability to make people feel at ease very quickly.
I love
And
that.
with that, I'm able to motivate others because I'm able to hit them at the core. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful gift that I did not realize I had until I tracked another retrospective analysis of my life. And that's why I probably do emergency medicine as my
Ah,
practice. Because if you think you come to the ER, you're anxious, you're nervous, you're angry, and as an ER doctor, I have to get into the essence of you and
right.
connect with you within a very short period of time
Yeah.
and then bring you at ease. And so I've recognized that that's my magic and that's what makes me spark.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And you're right, because in the ER, like you don't have that much time with patients, and many of them are coming in with one, they've been sitting probably for a
Mm-hmm.
while, so they're not exactly the friendliest mood, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
to kind of assess, triage, and then shuttle them to the next stop.
Mm-hmm. And you have to connect with someone to do that. If you think
Right.
about it, you're coming in, I'm a stranger. And
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to ask you your deepest, darkest secrets.
Right.
What would make you want to tell me that? I have to
Yeah.
connect with you in order for
Right.
that to happen. And I need that information so that I can give you the best care. So I've come to recognize, so that's how, that is what drew me. And I'm recognizing that's a powerful way that brought me to emergency medicine. And then that same personality is what I've been able to use outside of the ER because I just love people.
Awesome. Awesome. I absolutely love that. And this has just been such a great conversation. My goal is to bring relatable people here,
Mm-hmm.
and everything you said is so relatable, so that if you live that busy badge life, you can think to yourself, like, what are some of the ways that I can bring in a little bit of this so I can have my Zen time? And even
Mm-hmm.
if it's 15 minutes, even if it's just a car ride home, how do I create that resilience that I need? And so I absolutely will have loved all the little tips that you've given along this conversation.
Thank you so much. I hope that we're able to help all you ladies out there. And, you can always connect with us if you need some more tips.
Right. So with that said, where can they find you on the socials?
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn as Tamara Beckford or Dr. Tamara Beckford. I'm also on all the other social media platforms as Your Caring Docs, which is URCaringDocs. Your Caring Docs. So that's on your Instagram and on Facebook. And Facebook also, you can connect with me at Tamara Beckford. So that's Tamara Beckford, B as in boy, ECKFORD. My main platform, though, is LinkedIn, where you'll get a lot of my little tidbits that I put out there.
Awesome. 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 And again, thank you so much for taking the time with us this afternoon.
My pleasure. I had a wonderful time.